Welcome, I'm Duane Randle. I'm here with Dr. Matt Price. We are at Shady Gators, and we are with JG, the man who needs no introduction. And we're here to learn some more about JG, his business, and the things he's done for the lake community.
So JG, kind of a legend around the lake.
I don't know about that, but you know.
So you've been around a long time. How did you get started with this?
Actually, to be honest with you, I played college basketball, and you know, there's a time where you wanted to play in the NBA. When I found out the NBA wasn't knocking down my door, I had to figure something else out. So I get done with college, and I come down to the Lake of the Ozarks to work. And truthfully, my very first job at the Lake of the Ozarks was Buster's, Minor Mike's and Buster's. And I have the story of I was the first bartender ever at Buster's. And I had to wear this outfit, I had to wear a garter belt, and every beer that I served, I had to put a napkin on it with a rubber band that said Buster's. Anyway, long story short, I ended up working like 6 places that summer. Got to know a lot of people, but on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Buster's, we had dollar bottles, and the Topsider crew had come over. Katie Ebling, Frank Thompson, Susan Ebling, Scott Collins, and I got to meet all those guys. And they were coming every Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you know, I think I was making $100 in tips. I was like, this is awesome, you know, and get to know these guys. And Susan and Katie just says, why don't you come work for us next summer at Topsider? I was like, man, I am in. So I ended up working for, you know, you want to talk about legends at the lake, Kim Ebling and Dick Ebling. You know, I got to work under them, and I worked for them for 3 years. And then dog days, there was a spot at dog days. I was kind of getting maybe a little too old for Topsider, and Mark Barrett, Brian Barrett, two other legends at the Lake of the Ozarks. They're all 4 mentors of mine. And a spot came open, and Mark Barrett said he would hire me, and got to go over there and work for 3 years. My last year working for Mark, I got to manage, and then I get a shot at Shady Gators with Gary Pruitt when it was Bayou Bills. Tim Jones and myself were in Warrensburg. We were coming back and forth, working up there during the semesters in college, and then coming down here and working in the summer. Anyway, make a long story short, this is my 18th year at Shady Gators and Lazy Gators, and I've been at the lake for 24 years.
What kind of changes have you made to Shady Gators since you've been here?
Oh gosh, well, when it was just Shady Gators, it was a very, you know, it was kind of smaller place. We've added decks at Shady's, dance floors, making the decks go out further here, added extra bars. We've probably added 4 more bars at Shady's. We brought the property down at Lazy Gators, and that was, you know, in my opinion, one of the best piece of property at the Lake of the Ozarks. And Gary Pruitt fought and fought and fought till he got that done. And then so we bulldozed all there was like 3 houses, I think, on there, and a bunch of woods and a bunch of, you know, trees, and got it all down, and ended up turning into one of the first swim-up pool bars at the lake, and turned it into Lazy Gators. And that was a huge deal. And then we added an amphitheater out there with the stage where we could have concerts, DJ booths, extra bars out there, and it's just made a huge difference. But probably the thing, if you remember Shady's or Bayou Bills back in the day, we had the smallest parking lot at the lake. Literally 30 spots, might have been even 29. And literally we tore down 3 houses on the side down here, and we just built this brand new parking lot 4 years ago. Now we're up to 270 parking lots. So that was a huge addition for us. Then we ended up buying a bunch of houses up the street next to the Horny Toad and over to Honeysuckle. So we're up to 22 houses now that we rent out for Airbnbs, and pretty much you put all that together, it's made a huge difference for us.
Well, it's a big operation, and I would imagine that with all of the increased business and customers that you've had to deal with a lot of safety issues. You know, Matt and I, we're injury attorneys, and we want this community to be as safe as possible, but we want people to have a good time. You know, this is a fun area. Places like this are why people come to the lake. So when your customers come to Shady Gators, how do you keep them safe?
Well, we do our best. I mean, you can only do what you can, but we definitely do try our hardest. You know, it's like I tell people, you can't put 1,000 people in a place and mix in alcohol and expect everything to be perfect. It's kind of like a roller coaster. A roller coaster, you know, probably 1,000,000 times in a row, it's going to be perfect. And then there's going to be the day where the we've all been in an amusement park where it's not working that day. And so we try our best to keep everybody safe, but we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but we've had to go to some extreme measures. We've had to hire in private security. We have Camden County here every Friday and Saturday night to show people that we are trying. Unfortunately, we've had a couple bad incidents happen in here, and it's, hey, it's the couple longest days of my life, longest nights of my life. Still not over it. I still think about it every day. We hired a really, really good security crew out of St. Louis called Legion, and we have Camden County here every Friday and Saturday night, and they keep everybody safe, and we check for bags. Every person that comes in here gets their bag checked, and we just, making it safe.
Well, when your customers have had a good time, they've had a fun time here, that maybe they've been to a concert, maybe they just came for some drinks, and they're leaving, do you take any steps to ensure that they drive safe and boat safe?
Absolutely. One thing that I do for my customers that I don't know how many places do this, but I do this because I don't want anybody to get in a wreck. If anybody needs to leave their car overnight, we let them. Anybody needs to leave their boat overnight, we let them. And people ask all the time, and I say yes. They're like, oh my God, you really will do that for us? I said, absolutely. Well, how much do we got to pay you? I'm like, no, nothing. You get to stay here for free. The last thing the Lake of the Ozarks, Shady Gators needs, and I need, is for you to go get in a wreck and hurt somebody, or something even worse than that. So we let people stay here. I know every cab driver down here. I know a lot of the Ubers down here. We constantly are watching everybody to make sure we get them in a safe car. And then there's the water taxis. Water taxi gives us pins, so we just hand out pins, and there's their phone number, and we always want everybody leaving here. Well, somebody's got to stay sober. And we try to help everybody. That, like I said, people are going to make their own decisions on what they're going to do, but we definitely try to help everybody out. That's one of the things we concentrate on.
I remember back in the day, JG, when we had these very limited cab service, and there was no ride share, and those were the days where you literally could not find a ride on.
Right.
So how have things changed with the advent of Lyft, Uber, that type of stuff?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because on our houses, that's what my selling point was. There's not enough cabs, not enough Ubers down at the lake at that time, so you can just literally walk back and forth to the bar, and then you don't have to worry about the drinking and driving. But like you said, we used to have only so many cabs, and then you add Lyft, you add Uber, you add the water taxi, and I just believe it's made a huge difference. But still, with the lake growing as much as it has, we still need more cabs. We still need more Ubers. But you'll see Lake Ride Pros, they've added. You'll see Glorified Shuttles. They do shuttle bus rides. There's a Z's Airline. He has his rentals down here. So you see a lot more party buses. You see a lot more shuttle buses helping out. And if we get more of those, they'll take those big groups around. Just like we were in the boat business for 15 years. This is our first year we didn't do them, but we were always constantly sending our shuttles to go pick up people. And then we would take them home after their boat ride.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So then they didn't have to worry about, because you're going to be on a boat, you got a sober driver, which we always supplied captains. You're going to have fun. So the last thing, when you get dropped back off here at 6, we don't want you driving home, or we'll get you take you home in our shuttle, whatever.
That's great.
We've actually added a bunch of shuttles too. I forgot to mention that. We have
in-house, you have your own shuttle.
We have our own shuttles, yes.
Middle of the summer here, this place gets rocking. I mean, you've got tons of staff, you've got people everywhere, you're juggling a lot of balls. Have you taken steps with your staff to kind of line them out and give them some steps for proper safety? Say, for instance, somebody has a medical event here. What do you do next?
Okay, so the private security company that we do hire, Legion, there's always an EMT every weekend that we have, whether it's Caitlin or Parker. They are awesome at what they do. So we do have one of them every weekend. So we constantly have an EMT. We have our radios on, our walkies on. So if something goes down, we're like, hey, Parker, we need you, or hey, Caitlin, we need you. Because obviously on a medical situation, I mean, that's not what we do for a living, We turn that over to people that do that for a living.
Right, yeah. So you've got, on the weekends, you've got deputies here, you've got private security staff, you've got medical staff. You got plenty of parking now.
Plenty of parking, yeah.
I remember those days.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the tough parking. And you've got your staff in a position where they're ready to react as they need to react.
Yes, we put a walkie-talkie at every single bar. If something was to go wrong, we call it in, and we just let the professionals take over at that point. Last time we ever want anything to happen to anybody, we don't want anybody arrested. We try to talk everybody out of any situation that we need to. But like I said, we have true professionals here, and our staff is always to be looking out if there was an incident, always to be looking out if someone was had a little too much to drink. And we try, here's another thing we do. We have 5-gallon Gatorade jugs at every bar. So if you can't get to the bar and get a water, if it's too busy, the bartender, hey, go, there's your water right there. And so they can self-serve themselves water all night.
I think one of the messages that we as lawyers doing lots of accident work at the lake, one of the things that we're really concerned about is just not that people don't have too much of a good time, but that they plan ahead, that they've got a sober driver designated, that if they're boating, they've got somebody that can handle the boat, knows how to handle the boat, and is designated. And I see what you're doing here is just, it's a critical part of that, to make sure that, you've got your Uber rides, you've got your safety staff. And of course, our highest goal in what we're doing, our whole campaign for Drive Safe, Boat Safe, is just to make sure that there's a little bit more awareness out there. And the hope is that, if it could just cut down a little bit on some of the dangerous activity that sometimes flows out of the drinking. It's not to stop it or anything, it's just to make sure that people do it smartly.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you're continually kind of walking that line between the party and safety, because people are here for the party, but everybody wants to do it safely.
Yes, yes. And, there's customers that are constantly calling us, hey, how do we get there tonight? We'll call this number. How do we get home? We'll call this number. So we're constantly trying to help people out. That. To be honest with you guys, and I do, in 18 years of running this place, I bet you I've given over 200 rides to customers because we couldn't get them a cab. And I'm like, where are you staying at? I'll just take you home. And I feel good about myself doing that. And they appreciated that. Those are customers that have come back here for 18 years because I did that for them. Another thing that we all have been a part of that you'll love is we have late night pizza here, late night subs. You guys know when we were all in college, we had a few too many drinks or whatever. We get a slice of pizza and it makes you feel a lot better. So we are constantly doing Thursday through Saturday night, late night pizza by the slice, and subs to go, pretzels, whatever we can do to get some food in them.
Well, and even though we're personal injury attorneys, people kind of laugh when I say this. We don't like to see people get hurt.
No.
We don't want our community to be hurt, and it's nice to hear you feel the same way about your customers.
Yeah, totally. I don't want anything to happen to anybody. It's, for the whole Lake of the Ozarks, I truly believe that we're all in this thing together. And so we all need to watch out for each other. We all need to have each other's backs. But the main thing is we want to know that we want our tourists coming down here and our locals to know that, hey, we're here to take care of you and we want you guys safe. If we can provide a safe environment, they're going to keep coming back.
So JG, know you're a busy guy, but before we let you get back to it, there's a bunch of these charity events that are getting bigger and bigger every year. And my understanding is you're really involved in a couple of these events. So if you would, just tell us, what do you have going on in that way, and how are you kind of giving back to our community?
Well, to be honest with you, I know that people love the Lake of the Ozarks, but I truly believe I'm one of the top people around that love the Lake of the Ozarks. I literally wouldn't live anywhere else in the world. I wouldn't live anywhere else in America. This is a very special place. But we do constantly, one thing I don't know if we get enough credit for is the charity events that we do here. You think of the party here and stuff, but we definitely love giving back. We give to Wonderland Camp, and in all of our years between bootleggers, Shady Gators, and Lazy Gators, we've given $250,000 to them.
Wow.
And they've only had one other person ever do that, so they're going to recognize us for that. So I'm really proud of that. We are very grateful we got to be part of the shootout this year. We're in it every year, but we got to be where they had the fundraiser down there on Friday night, and they chose to have their auction here, They raised, I think, $350,000 that night.
Wow.
That's incredible.
And it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like unbelievable. You know, we've done our Chiefs parties here where we raise money for Wonderland Camp. But yeah, anything we can do. You know, Dan Ralston, God rest his soul, very, very good friend of mine. He was a realtor. You know, we had his fundraiser here. He had cancer, and that night we had it at Lazy Gators, and we raised $120,000 for him. I mean, it's it's a great place to have a charity event, but we try to do as much as we can, show the community how much we really do love them.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. You know, just giving back like that's so important to our community, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Enjoyed talking to you.
Nice
Thank
talking with you,
very much.
JG.
Thanks for what you guys do at the Lake of the Ozarks too.